The film was actually my idea, but when the studio and I started the storyboarding, I realized if we had the help of That's Fine Studios, then we could really get this thing going.
So when Travelers Films asked me to help them out with this film, I was a bit hesitant. But after I looked at the script, I said, wow, these guys need our help.
After That's Fine Studios agreed to give us a hand, we met at our headquarters and started looking for a director.
We talked about it a lot, but in the end we decided that the best director for this adventure-type movie was going to be Phil McMulden. He's got a lot of experience with movies like this, and he had just finished another adventure movie and did a great job.
I'm not normally the type to just jump in on a project when I haven't been part of the script writing, storyboarding, and stuff like that. Plus, I like some time off between films. But when I interviewed with Joel and Harrison, it was obvious they needed someone with my type of experience. They had no idea how hard stunt actors are to manage.
Phil was hesitant at the beginning, but once we started explaining our ideas, he jumped right in.
Phil was definitely the guy we needed. He had all kinds of great ideas for the places where Harrison and I were a bit stuck.
I asked for a couple of things before I took the job. 1, I get to help choose the actors. 2, I get to say which scenes we keep and which get cut. 3, I get a lifetime supply of cheeseburgers from the Build and Break Burger, but that's a completely different story.
Phil suggested bringing in Andy Fearson as our main actor. Harrison and I were a bit surprised at the suggestion. Andy has a bit of a history of forgetting his lines, trying to take over the set, and just all around making a big mess.
As a producer, I'm a big fan of Andy Fearson, but as a person, I dislike him greatly.
Harrison and I had our secretary arrange a call with Andy and his agent. After only about 5 minutes, Andy was all in. His agent was a different story. First time I've ever heard an actor fire his agent over a call with a producer.
Andy firing his agent should have been a first sign that he wasn't the right guy for the job. I did a little research after the call and found that Andy has had 37 agents and counting. That's a lot of turnover for an actor.
With the main role down, the others filled rather quickly. We have talent such as Christopher Hoover, Chris Downs, Jordan Aarons, and Chris Wakefield. Maybe we should have called this movie Attack of the Chris's.
After we got the human characters figured out, we still needed some orcs. Joel suggested actors and makeup or CGI, but I knew a few guys from another film I'd done who actually were orcs, so I gave them a call, and they jumped in without hesitation.
Well, of course we jumped in. Since we're both real orcs, we don't get many jobs, because not many movies actually have orcs in them. And even if they do, most directors are afraid that we're going to try and eat them once we get there or something. Once we actually got to see the script, we were kind of worried since the film required our heads getting sliced off. But then we remembered that when our heads do get sliced off, we can just put them back on.
With the actors filled out, we started looking for a set designer. But after a ton of calls and research, we discovered nobody wants to work with Andy Fearson.
We knew we needed to find someone to design the sets, so we did some research and found another actor that we decided was going to work much better than Andy. So we fired him and hired Rob Fernando.
I was really excited when I was asked to act in this film, and then I was even more excited when I heard they wanted me to play the main character. It was like Steven Spielberg asked me to play Indiana Jones, except I get to throw knives and stuff.
I wasn't thrilled with the idea of firing Andy, but after talking to Rob a bit, I decided that he was going to be a better fit for the part. Plus, this guy has a much better reputation and was going to be a lot easier to manage.
We found a guy named Ben Main who we thought would do a great job for the set design. But there was something his agent didn't tell us.
It was a big mistake on our part. We should have asked for references. So after the debacle of hiring a guy who didn't exist, we hit the phones again and kept looking.
After even more researching, we finally found someone who we thought would do well and actually, existed. But Phil didn't like him.
At this point, both of our studios were pretty frustrated. So I told Phil that if he was going to be so picky, then he should find someone himself. And that's what he did.
I worked with Phil before on Just Another Elephant Attack. He's a great director, but I didn't agree with Mr. Boink and Mr. Kiter in general. They seem to be pompous.
Andy was a bit self-centered. She wanted things her way all the time. Maybe that's why she and Phil work so well together.
During the film, there's a scene where Jock Blackbond is riding a horse. So we sort of rented a horse for a ranger and hired a horse wrangler.
We were just about to film a scene where Rob rides his horse away from the orcs, so Phil told me to go get his horse from the corral. When I unlatched the gate, he got all Jimmy Jackal and started running all over set.
Whoa, look out!
Wow,
Hey, heads
no
up!
Save
way.
the camera!
It.
Ah!
Needless to say, we should have chosen our horses a little more carefully.
After we finished one of the fight scenes, one of our stagehands went to pull one of Rob's throwing knives out of Nawit's midsection. But to Nawit's horror, it didn't come out. It wasn't life-threatening, but it's not very comfortable.
Yeah, it's hard to stay calm when even the doctor on set isn't sure what to do.
Even though it wasn't really my fault, I still felt bad about the whole thing. After all, I was the one who threw the knife.
I tried and tried, but I couldn't pull the knife out myself. But with enough people, 1, 2, 3.
And of course, there were some other minor problems along the way. In one scene, Rob has to do this crazy parkour move, and he ends up not quite landing right and spraining his ankle, which set the filming back a bit. But we had set extra time specifically for that purpose.
The sprained ankle didn't really bother me that much, but I can't act with it like that, so I took a few days off to recover, and then we got right back to it.
Well, I was bored after Rob's sprain, and Joel and I were getting quite tired of Andy's shenanigans.
The minute we would criticize her, Phil got in our faces. Andy finally pulled the last stunt Harrison and I could stand.
Those who know me know I'm a pretty big sports fan, so I came up with an idea to rid us of Andy once and for all.
When Harrison called me and Phil into his office, I didn't know what he was thinking. I knew he was annoyed with Andy, but this was insane.
So I did what was probably a first in the film industry. I traded Andy to another film, The Wayward Penguin, with 2 backup actors and an assistant to be named later for the legendary set builder Scottish.
Phil wasn't so happy with the idea of trading Andy, but the opportunity to work with Mr. Scottish added to the bag of build and break burger literally under the table changed his mind.
Andy wasn't so happy about it.
No, I will not discuss this. I hope that both of them fall off a cliff and break their necks.
Once Scotty arrived, we found he was a man of much action and few words.
Yeah, I build sets. The first thing he asked us for was a case of dynamite to blow up each and every one of Andy's old sets. While that wasn't very safe, we did allow him to borrow the cave troll.
That seemed to help him focus, and then he turned out some amazingly awesome sets for us.
We had a ball with Scotty and his building abilities. In the few days it took for Rob to heal, Scotty had built all of the sets we needed for the next few weeks.
So in the morning, about 7:30 or so, I got myself some coffee and headed over to the studio. When I got there, I saw Harrison and Joel were already up. So I walked over to them, and they appeared to be looking down at a pile of rubble, glass, and what appeared to be part of a tripod.
It was really odd. I had gotten up a few minutes before Harrison, so I went to go get our coffees. But as I was walking through the studio, I noticed a big pile of something. Whatever it was, it had been completely destroyed.
When I walked into the studio, I saw Joel looking down at a pile of something. So I walked over there and looked at it, but neither of us could tell what it was.
By the time I got into the studio, Joel, Harrison, Rob, Scotty, and several others were already there, but they weren't preparing to get started. They were just looking at something on the ground. So I walked over there and immediately recognized it was a camera. Well, the smashed parts of a camera, but we couldn't figure out what had crushed it.
At this point, everyone was quite confused. Harrison thought someone might have broken in, but Joel pointed out that nothing else had been broken or stolen, so why would someone just break in to smash a camera?
Hey guys, what's this?
After Phil pointed the large rock thing out to us, I pulled out my phone and did some web researching, and found out that there was a meteor shower that night, and it was the meteor that crashed through the roof, smashed the camera, and rolled into a corner.
So after we figured that out, we had Scotty get to work on the roof while we got a different camera and got ready to get started.
Not to be biased, but I think this turned out to be a great movie. Probably one of the best I've done.
I'm really glad that we came on board and helped Travelers Films with this one. It turned out to be a great film and definitely a great investment.
We wouldn't have been able to do this without the help of That's Fine Studios, Phil McMolden, Scotty Scott Scottish, Rob Fernando, the Orcs, and Sally Starr. But one thing's for certain, we definitely could have done it without Andy.
Bye.